You're live.
Okay.
Mm.
Oh, maybe that's what I'll do. There we go. Now I'll just deafen. Oh, maybe that'll work. Let me get my phone turned off and everything. Put it on airplane mode. That's the courteous thing to do.
Mark says, can't stay too long tonight, but wanted to drop by and say hi.
What up, Mark? Thanks for showing up before the show. I mean, obviously, you didn't have much of a choice. The show hasn't started yet, and you're here.
Welcome.
Welcome. Sit back for as many minutes as you can and enjoy the soothing sounds of quiet, interrupted by me occasionally speaking.
Occasionally. And the logo. Enjoy the logo.
Just, okay, so it looks like it works.
It's a logo and a tiny logo.
Oh, yeah, so I guess that's a hyperlink or something. YouTube just released a thing, and they're like, do you want to try it? And I said, sure. It's probably going to look like crap, and I'm sure it does.
It's just a little square on the bottom that is the logo.
Yeah, but it's going to be there forever, maybe? I don't know how to do things with that.
You could probably put it on a different corner, maybe.
But, I mean, it's probably fine where it is. Is it like in the bottom right if you're
it's the bottom right.
That's fine. I mean, there's real estate there on the screen.
Yeah. Kayla's here.
What up, Kayla? Moderator Kayla. Welcome to the pre-show.
The pre-show.
I'm having fortified coffee. Not as fortified as I'd like, mind you. Fortified nonetheless.
Only double dipping. Or triple dipping.
We'll call it like 2 1/8 dips. Because I get a full dip from the caffeine, a full dip from the butter, and I'm only going to count 1/8 of a dip from the heavy cream because although I would like it to contain more protein, the simple and sad fact is it is not. So it is not a triple dip. If I get me some of that collagen protein back in stock over here, then who knows?
I know, I have to order it. Or we can go to Sprouts and get it.
We might go to 2 1/6 because the monk fruit also has, whatever, insulin-resistant restorative properties or whatever. I get people who are waiting for this video. You're going to love this surprise I got in store for you. I wanted to do one thing and I did another. Twice that happened now. I wanted to find my gi for the workout, and maybe I'm looking at it right there, that big white thing. I'll have to investigate later. Couldn't find it, but may have just found it live on air. And
in the bucket?
Yeah, bottom bucket. That big white, because that's what it was. It's a big white jacket and pants. You throw those babies around though, because the inside you have two. It's heavy cotton canvas. Those gis, because we were throwing each other around in them. Kind of a bummer because they're held together by a strap that connect on the inside, sort of pull it. Obviously, if you've ever done it before, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you don't, it's like a folding across you. Moral of the story is, without two straps, one side is constantly unsecured, which mine is, because during one of the throws, it just ripped out. And so now it's mostly just for it's been in that container, if that is the actual thing.
I don't know.
For who knows. But I'm kind of bummed because here's the thing. When you buy a gi, they tell you, or at least they told me, buy like the big, thick, heavy, like cotton canvas that you have to break in with your sweat, tears, blood, and spit. So I did, and I've got a lot of all of that in that gi, and I'd be bummed out to have to start all over again with all of those various bodily fluids.
No, I'm pretty sure we still have it. I just don't know where it is, and I'm not sure if that's it. Mark says he's scared at what you're wearing.
Oh, Mark, you might like it. It's not. It's not gonna blow anybody away. How long would? It's almost 5 minutes. Just as a reminder, before we actually do go live, whatever, the Discord is on the Facebook. If you're there, if you want the link, I'm not going to put it in the description here because here there might be weirdos, and I would rather have a vetting process where you'd have to go through the Facebook to come to here.
Save Mod Kayla the work.
Yeah, Mod Kayla will have to drop some hammers. I'm going to have to, that's the thing. We need, Kayla, you're going to have to bite the bullet one day and become a moderator in the Discord if this becomes a thing. And who knows, maybe it will. But I'll need you to rule that with an iron fist just as you do the typing square. Krista, let's go ahead and hit the button.
You're listening to FFOP Radio.
Reach the audience.
Oh, maybe I'll do this. Oh, it's awful. But we'll see what happens. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Dave, a.k.a. Dervis, and this is a live show. I can't wear these glasses. They're my readers, and I'm not going to be reading. So, full disclosure, I was going to put these on, and half of the get-up of the hat was to distract from the zit on my nose. So, look at the hat, not my nose.
Why bring it up?
Because you're going to see it. If you look at the screen, you'll be like, aha, I see what's up. The subterfuge is very obvious. That's why I wanted to get it out of the way. Show everybody that transparency is important to me. Guys, welcome to the show. It is Flamingo Friday. Hope you're wearing your flamingos. I got 1, 2 on. I'm also drinking out of several. Krista's over there on the couch, obviously.
I am over here on the couch.
So we don't have a scheduled guest. The phone lines are open, but if no one calls, that's fine too. I've been putting together, because I thought, well, I'll just put together some questions, some interview questions, and I can use them on Krista. But I already know these about you, and I think we've also covered them ad nauseum on the show, or maybe not ad nauseum, but they're like the one thing I haven't asked you, I know, and is not going to be funny because I already know, and I can't be like, aha, gotcha. So, let me fade your camera in since I introduced you. Boing, there she is, right there in the corner. But now when you see you, you're going to be under that flamingo.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering why you were like, that's a great spot, even though I'm going
to move you right.
Well, last time I was up on top, I think, but
oh, I guess I could put you up top.
I don't really care where I am.
The Jason masks will get blocked, and I feel like those are,
What about
crowd
put me
pleasers?
on the bottom left? There's a whole bunch of dead space next to your
That's
shoulder.
where I just allow time to catch up with reality in YouTube, and you will see.
There it is.
You will see what has happened.
I'm so tiny. That's okay, though. I don't need to be big.
I can make it half the screen.
Oh, good Lord.
I'll just make it a little bit bigger. Whoop. There we go. Wow, look at that. So, welcome to the show, everybody. I guess, because here's the thing. Krista, I don't think I've asked you this. You've been witness to it, but I don't think we've hashed it out, mano a mano, as it were.
Okay.
So my classic Homestead Murderer family versus the traveling murderer of the 1860s. Where do you fall on that?
It's hard because since you've asked other people, since it's come up so many times and everybody has a different point, I kind of think the family...
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I kind of think the family, the Homestead Murderer family...
So why do you think the murderer family have it up over the traveling murderer?
Well, safety in numbers, even though I know he can, pick them off one by one or just kill them all at once somehow. But
keep in mind, you have to be within the reality of the situation. There's very little chance that in the 1860s, a single traveling man will have a technique, tool, whatever, that could kill 4 people at once. He's not Batman. He doesn't have gas pellets in a gauntlet that he can just poof.
Well, the only thing I could think of is poison. Say, the family's sees this guy and they're like, oh, bed and breakfast, whatever bullshit. And he poisons their meal. But I don't know. I think the family, they know their house. They know the land. They know,
Yeah, and part of it too is like since the time period, I feel is very crucial to this thought experiment, because any sort of crime stopping techniques or technology will automatically null and void everything that's going on here, because you can't have a Homestead Murder after a certain point in history. But we're in a time where just think of how many crimes were committed and then were just labeled accidents.
Yeah.
Like you're living out there, whatever municipality you're in, and let's say, you're lucky enough to have a town or whatever with some sort of policeable force. But like if you were out there in the woods living in a log cabin, and one day you go to church and everybody's like, "Hey, Zeke, where's your wife?" You could just be like, "Oh, we were fishing and she fell into the river and died." And all they would have to, what would they have to go on other than your word?
Nothing. Yeah.
Or, depending on the time frame, you also could have been caught up in a werewolf scare. There was a witches and werewolf phase in
The witch got her.
Well, you wouldn't say a witch got her, but if it was maybe that was it. It was like all the women who got accused of crimes were witches, but there was an inordinate amount of male werewolves. I feel like there are definitely in the literature canonically. All bets are off today, obviously.
Yeah.
But back in the day, if you were a werewolf, you were guaranteed to be a man. If you were a witch, you were guaranteed to be a woman, obviously. But like vampires, that was a toss-up. It was whoever you found sexiest at the time.
Right. Speaking of witches, I wonder how many witches were killed that obviously weren't
like real witches.
No, like how many women were killed being accused of being a witch?
Countless.
And it's like, did the why
God?
Why, like?
Well, if you really want to unpack, like, Salem, I assume we're talking about, like, that whole kerfuffle.
I mean,
Well, before science, anything was cool. Like, before science, everything and anything was on the table. You could be accused of witchcraft, and it could be given as much weight as simply killing someone for money. And that was the thing. So, you can't hold up the past to today's lens. It's just a bunch of desperate, dirty idiots scared of the world around them, scared of the people around them, and are desperate to find an answer to their problems. Thus, we have witchcraft and other things taking the blame. But that's repeat ad nauseum. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. It goes in cycles. It's just whoever the first person calls out as the group of evildoers, I guess. It's the same the world over. Like, we saw it here a dozen times. Like when the Irish started coming over and the Italians started coming over and all these other subgroups, even though they were white, people here were like, "Oh, weird. They're white. Sure, we got that. That's all right." But from where? Ah! But also, again, like, you could look at somebody and without science to back up or disprove claims, it was very easy to point at somebody and be like, because phrenology was a thing.
What is it?
Phrenology. So, back before it was disproved as quackery, you could look at the slope of your forehead, the shape and spacing of your brow, and the ridge, the back of your head. The genius murderers, Loeb and Leopold, were like one of the last, modern day murderers to get examined by a phrenologist. And they were both like, oh, they have a, murderer's forehead, and they had murderous ears and murderous back of the head, obviously. They were murderers. Idiots, but murderers. But that's where we all lie. Without knowledge, and even today, like, think about this. This will blow your mind. All the things we do today are going to be so old-fashioned and so ridiculous to our son, everybody who's being born today and beyond.
Yeah.
They're going to look at it and be like, "Oh my God, like how insane is that?" But again, this is another conversation that's happened a million times too.
Yeah.
Every generation likes to think that they're special and that the kids are the ones who are going to destroy the world. But history has proven time and time again that the newest generation refuses to destroy the earth. So far, it's been going pretty good. And that's another thing that I don't understand. Like, old people in general do this too. Like, to this day, they say, it's like, well, morals, things aren't like they were in the old days. And I was watching what the hell was I watching? Something. I was watching something. And the guy being interviewed in this show was saying, it wasn't that, like, back in the old days, you could give a kid a bus ticket and send him across town. You could let your kid go to the store for you and buy cigarettes. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that the dangers didn't exist. It wasn't that there was no such thing as murder or weirdos or child, fixated people. It was just that without the internet and without people like accepting it, you live with your head on the railroad tracks.
Mark says, I'm hoping the kids save the world.
I mean, they're at the very least, Mark, they have been keeping the world afloat because here we are. I was once a child looked at by an old person and they thought, dear God, he's going to ruin it. And at the very least, I have not destroyed it. I have been a net neutral contribution to the world.
Me too.
And that's all that most of us can hope for. I mean, not hope for, obviously, but I mean, if you're not going to go out and set the world on fire, metaphorically, don't do it literally. Just don't, give as much as you take, at least, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Well, whatever. We get started. That was the whole murderer question.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the family. In the end.
I don't know. Maybe I have to slightly modify the parameters because, again, to me, the homestead murderers, if they have, I brought this up before, but if they have got animals, poison's off the table. And also, where are you going to get poison out in the middle of nowhere?
Well, that's why I'm thinking it's the family that wins, that kills the guy.
Well, see, to me, logically, the most logical thing for the family to do would be poison if they were farmers. For a traveling murderer, my point is for a poisonous substance to make it so far into an uncharted America in 1860 seems unlikely to me. So that's why I usually and so far have discounted it, because it's going to be expensive and difficult to find. And if you're like a traveling murderer, you're going to be out there also trapping animals for food. Yeah. So, and maybe that's another thing about it too, is back in the old days when you had to, like, either on a farm or you're a traveler, you've got to catch and kill animals. So that's going to give you a layer of desensitivity. So maybe that's even, that makes it even more of an even playing field.
I don't know. Mark says, kudos for not destroying the earth. Kayla says,
You're
yes,
welcome.
I hope the world doesn't get destroyed either. That's where I keep all my stuff.
I know. Everything I have is on this planet, and I don't think we're going to be able to find a use stored on Mars anytime soon.
No, I don't think so.
But, okay, so here's the thing that I didn't think of until this point. The traveling murderer is going to have hunting skills, obviously, but possibly further beyond a farmer. Because, let's be real, to support a family, keeping like a cow, they're going to kill a cow, you have no refrigeration. That's going to be a lot of meat that you got to go through really fast. So I imagine day to day, they're probably hunting.
Or they just eat a lot of meat and they're like super healthy.
There's no way. Like, let's just look at it from a money point of view. Like, let's say you get a couple of cows or, some head of whatever out there.
I guess, and you sell it in town.
There's no town necessarily because we're on the Oregon Trail.
Oh.
Or something equivalent is what I'm getting at. They're homesteaders. They're weirdos. They specifically went outside of whatever society was back then, which was even less.
Yeah, so they're weirdos. So they, may not have as many hunting skills as the guy, but if they're versed in killing people also, they're going to know how to use weapons.
Here, okay, yes, yeah. But everybody would back then. Like, you were back. You have to keep in mind that, like, to stay alive back then, it was a literal fight for survival. To wake up, you had to fight your blanket off of you because it was possibly still a living, breathing animal, and/or it was so heavy you would have to struggle out from. Like, life was tough, bar none. So I'm just giving everybody the quality of being tough as nails.
Mark says the family wins over the traveler due to strength in numbers. Yeah, that's what I think too.
But okay, so yeah, so the strength in numbers thing leads me to my counterpoint to that. When you have strength in numbers, and not only that, you have a routine and a comfort zone, you're not expecting a dude coming to kill you necessarily. So you can easily rest on your laurels and be like, you know what, we got this covered. Like, you may even get so good at it because, like, you know, look at contemporary studyable killers like Bundy and everybody. They get to a point where their skills are honed, but then their concentration suffers and they do something stupid and get caught.
Mark says Oregon Trail, they all die of dysentery.
Yeah, it is entirely possible, too, that in the middle of, like, they all meet in the living room, axe handles raised, like knives, and they all just shit themselves inside out. And they collapse in, like, a, what was that old game? This is going to be a terrible segue breaking tangent. But in my childhood, there was a game where it was a bunch of plastic hands and you would wait for a certain trigger, whether it be a card. I realize I've lost a lot of the details as I'm telling the story to time. But here's the topper of that story. It took so long to tell it, I forgot why I started.
Cool. Kayla also said the same thing about dysentery at the same time as Mark.
Because dysentery was the killer.
Yeah.
If you were lucky, if you were really lucky, they got to, you'd have to have a rich family. Because you'd have to, like, catch dysentery, and as your ass has opened up and you're rocketing across the plains, a rattlesnake would have to jump out and strike, attaching itself to your legs. So you also get that added bonus. And as your rocket starts to lose fuel, you skid to a stop at the edge of a stream where a bear is catching salmon, and he just finishes it. So your family can pick up the pieces, put it in a little baggie, and you would have the best tombstone when you got to Oregon.
Yeah.
They'd say, guess what? This little baggie is all that's left of a dude who is flying through the air on rocket-powered diarrhea, attacked by, let's say, multiple snakes. Like, let's not pull out any of the stops. Went right through a rattlesnake warren, like in Yig, covered in them, like spaghetti as he's going through an Italian restaurant. Then the bear.
Gross.
And the cubs.
Oh.
Then they
have to eat too.
Yeah, well, and good news is for the rest of the party, after the bears had finished with the our poor victim, they didn't need that salmon they caught. Boom! 2 pounds of food for the party.
Ay.
That's a completely real scenario.
Sure.
Don't let that go. There's a lesson to be had in that. I'll leave it up to you.
Don't
It's
get
open to
rocket
interpretation.
Diarrhea.
Yeah. This is years before digital or even analog diarrhea. This is IRL.
IRL diarrhea.
Somebody in the typing square, I want to know if anybody has picked up a new hobby or anything during this quarantine period. I've picked up and dropped a few, but I want to know if anybody out there has picked up something that they've kept with.
I got plants.
Yeah, you got plants, and you know, not for nothing, what an incredible turnaround from plant after plant, literally as they were being pulled into the house. It was like a Raiders of the Lost Ark situation where they would immediately anthropomorphize and you would see the soul coming out of their poor little plant faces as they die. And now we have them growing everywhere. So, I mean, that just goes to show you, like, don't give up. It may seem daunting. And even if something is, because, Krista, when you started picking up this houseplant thing,
Like this year or well,
whatever time frame you want to start at. Like, it did not seem like a big deal picking it up because you say, oh, well, I'll just grow houseplants. That seems very simple.
Yeah, you water them, put them in the sun.
I'll grow houseplants. 3 words.
Yeah.
Each one of those words has a million different steps.
Yep.
So maybe we'll start there as the typing square is sort of filling in rank and file. What are some of the things that you picked up that you were like, oh, that's something I didn't know about raising a houseplant?
Like a lot of, there's so many. Oh, first
because
of all,
I have not picked up. First of all, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to say I've picked up 0 through osmosis. So this is a genuine interview.
So, well, I never realized how many different kinds of houseplants there are and the variations of each brand, I guess you can call it.
That's the beauty of every hobby is like as soon as you find a hole in that fabric and you look through, there's what's that movie? Maybe like the Spiderwick Chronicles. I think that shit happened where they look through a little hole and there's a world on the inside.
Oh.
Or whatever, Narnia. Pick your
Narnia.
poison. I just don't like the Jesus allegories.
Well,
Mark knows what I'm talking about.
That and like some need humidity, so you have to have them around humidifiers. Others need, like, there's sun, like full sun, indirect light, direct light, shade, obviously.
Yeah, and now knowing all of this, now having all of this information, doesn't it all seem very obvious? Like, what you're doing is taking care of living organisms that require certain conditions to live.
Yeah.
And now with all of this experience, it all just seems like, well, duh. These are tropical plants you're bringing into an arid environment that need constant sun or water, or less sun or whatever.
And a lot of the plants will not tell they'll show you that it needs something different or more of or less of or whatever. Like I have one plant in our bedroom, it's called a nerve plant, and she just literally faints. They call it just fainting, and she'll droop like crazy when she wants water. And then within an hour after watering her, she's perky and happy again.
And see, that's what we have here. You're using pronouns because plants do have sexes, obviously. There are.
Well, they pollinate and.
Yeah, I mean, you like flowers are a perfect example. Sometimes you have with flowers you have the pistil and the stamen and everything is like that's both organs in one.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have dimorphism, sexual dimorphism, or genetic whatever you want to call the dimorphism, because there are like ash trees, and there's one that'll dump a shit ton of seeds all over your lawn, and there's one that won't. I don't remember which one, but it's divided down the gender lines of plants.
Well, I have a lot that just make
sex?
babies themselves. Like,
yeah, a lot of them are self-replicating.
yeah, I have a bunch of ones that are making babies and stuff like that, or little ones, and I don't know, what are male or female. It just happens. Like there's one in our kitchen that I has been named Doc because that's just what when it got sent to me, that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Its name was Doc and the other one's Fernie. So
here's another thing that I've, because obviously whenever someone near you gets into a hobby and then it hits them big, you're going to see the fringes of the weirdos that skate just below the surface in the dark waters of any hobby. And I can't be surprised anymore. The only thing that surprises me isn't the degree that everybody takes everything. It's the amount of things there are to take to the 11th degree. Like I said this on Facebook, but I'll tell it again here because not everybody is everywhere. But I don't even remember what I was looking up. I think I was looking up something about Buddha or Budo or some martial arts thing, and stumbled upon a plant that was similarly named, but I had misspelled the word I was looking for.
Oh no, Bruce Lee. You were looking up
Oh,
something about
right.
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. I knew it started with a B.
Yeah.
But that was the thing. I instead of hitting Bruce, I typed in Boose, B-U-C-E, and accidentally hit enter. and was inundated with thousands of videos of dedicated, passionate people who all come together to create a community where they have plastic tanks growing plants.
Yeah. I'm in a couple plant groups on Facebook, and like their shit is incredible. Majority of them that post their plant rooms or like just their plants in their areas around the house are gorgeous.
But
and I want to be that kind of person.
But that's where you are, though. You start out as like a scattered particle of light.
Yeah.
Then you find something, you hone it in. It's like when you click on your mag light and the light goes everywhere. Then you twist the head and it goes woo. You focus it into a beam. The deeper you get into it, the tighter your beam gets. And all those weirdos who are now like beyond multiple plants, they have landed on a single species, and that is their expertise. And all they have are this one thing. And then they go ahead and start doing the boudoir pics. And then they go ahead and start like, it's pretty soon that person is so focused and so, powerfully laser-like in their desires that they are impossible to deal with or be around. Because how else would you deal with someone who is essentially a giant death beam of hyper-focus on something you could care less about? So I'm saying is don't be that person.
No, I don't. No, not like that. I want to have like a house that has better light for one, because I can only like it wouldn't look like I have as many plants as I have if they were spread out better and they didn't take up our counter in the kitchen.
Well, here's the thing. No matter how you shake these dice, when you have 40 plants, each square foot can only hold so many. So
I'm running out of room.
Right.
With good light.
But that's the thing. Well, a house plant, any hobby can do this, where you say, oh, now I need more room. We need to update the house. So, hey, a hobby that now started as I found this at Home Depot for $3 is now like, we are now in a $400 million greenhouse. And, but that's the thing. You find your spot in there somewhere, and hopefully you burn out before your money, your time, everything else has been destroyed as well.
I had a plant spa day today. I had the day off of work, and I got all the plants. I wrangled them all up and, sprayed them with...
Chasing them around the house.
Yeah.
Get back here, you little
Elliot was
rapscallion.
running after them. And I wiped down their leaves. I watered them. I put cinnamon in their soil, because if you put cinnamon in their soil, it helps deter gnats. And I sprayed neem oil on them, which also helps kill gnats. And then put some coffee grounds in the soil, which is good nutrients. And
see, these are a million different things that at the outset were like, you never know.
I was using tap water for the longest time for all of them, and then realized that distilled or fish tank water is also good. Or put banana peels in water and you can use that, or fish emulsion, or whatever the hell.
And that's the thing though. Like, this is what I want you to take away from all this weirdo talk, is if you can find that sweet spot where you can be a weirdo about it, it does not rule you. But if you ever encounter, and it's difficult now that everybody has access to literally every hobby ever, but if you find that person who's into plants, or if you're a book person, you find that person who's into books or whatever, like, you make that connection and you can be like, oh man, have you ever heard of... And they go, oh yeah, what about... And you go, oh my God. Like, that is just like money waiting to happen. And not only that, sometimes you find someone who is interested in the thing that you like, and they will be blown away by the things that you think are like average, everyday stuff, because you do it every day.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so Mark says Gloomhaven is what he's been doing.
Gloomhaven? Is that some sort of game?
It's that board game. I think it's a board game. Before he responds, Kale says, I started revisiting using my juggling sticks after a live stream inspired me to use them again.
Yeah.
And Mark says, if I had a plant, I'd be lucky if I watered it. Well, Mark, lucky for you. If you get a plant, there are a lot that you could just ignore. And
but listen, that's the thing. There's always a gateway drug for every hobby that everybody in that hobby can be like, hey, good news.
Yeah. There's a ZZ plant that I have that I've only watered once since I got it.
I want to before I forget, I want to ask Kayla about the sticks. So
Yes.
I know you've been using them in the live streams. Have you also been doing the juggling? Like, have you not only picked them up for what we've been doing, but are you getting back into stick juggling? Is my question.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to pick Mark's brain about Gloomsinger or whatever
Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven.
And I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, because Athena plays it with her husband, and I think it's a pretty short game, but it's got like, I want to say it's kind of like the games that we play with like Adam and Andy or whatever, and there's the squares, and you go through the rooms.
Oh,
Like Betrayal, like Arkham, whatever.
That's an insanely complicated. I get it, like that, but that's yeah, okay, but there's a board games are their own thing. So being like it's like XYZ, board games are another thing that you could like go on a tangent on that never ever stops.
Yeah. He says Gloomhaven is a giant, massive board game hybrid RPG, but you can play solo, so it was perfect for quarantine.
Here's what. Oh, you can play it solo. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Here's what the games I like are always more about like psychological crap, like playing. I don't know if you've ever played Fiasco. Fiasco was one of my favorite games and still is if I can get people to play it. And to a lesser extent, the role-playing games, but I'd rather be playing a character I'm closer to in Species. And so all of like the murder mystery games, all those like, you know, like I always say, people love solving a good mystery. And on top of that, if you're like me, love manipulating people with zero stakes so you can feel ethically okay at the end of it. And Fiasco is one of those games where you can do that because you can use whatever skill you have that you could turn for evil and use it for just evil in a fun way. Because like the Fiasco especially is so easy. If you can cherry pick the people around you and get all the manipulatable ones in there, you've got the game won. But the problem is getting the people interested and available for.
Yeah, I'm not.
Because everybody freezes up because they say, I'm not. Here's what I don't get about that type of situation. Like I would get going into a Dungeons and Dragons scenario and being like, not my world. I don't get the nomenclature, the weapons, whatever. Like the murder mysteries and the Fiascos of the world don't ask you anything beyond just be a human.
Yeah, I get nervous. Like I get like when we played, it wasn't that I don't know. I'm not good at improv, but the whole like it's your turn and you have to think of some crazy ass thing.
You don't have, it doesn't have to be crazy. Let me disabuse everybody of this same thing I hear from everybody. Krista says it to me 20 or 30 times a day.
Rude.
She says, I'm not good at improv. I'm not good at improv. You may not be good under pressure. I will accept that as an answer, but you are great at improv. Do you know how I know? I don't hear an answer. Do you know how I know?
No, how do you know?
Because you're a human being and alive and you move through this world. Like, improv is simply picking something in a certain scenario. Like, let's say you go to a doctor's office. In real life, you may stand there, you may wait in line, you may talk to the lady behind the desk, eventually you go see the doctor. With improv, it's that same thing, except there's less stakes.
See, I don't think in my opinion, improv is not like real life.
No, it's even better. You get to bullshit in it.
Yeah, well, I'm not versed in bullshitting like
you don't
that.
have to be versed. You just have to do what's fun. That's the thing. It's like
under pressure.
And then again, like what pressure? Like when you have this conversation we have not scripted this. Full disclosure, if you're watching this thinking that we are reading a script, I will prove to you we are not. Here are my notes.
I don't have
That's
any
all
paper.
I got. We are having this organic conversation because you're taking in the information I'm giving you, digesting it, pulling from a real life situation, and responding.
Yeah, but I'm not creating some kind of crazy story with
You don't have to. Why does everybody think that improv has to be some zany thing where you're pulling clown hammers out of your pants and smashing each other in the nuts?
In the Fiasco game, you have a whole storyline situation. You have to you can't go in there being like, I'm me, and it's the 1840s, and hey, I'm just hanging out. Like, you know.
Right. But here's where, like, making a character is the easiest part. Like, all you'd have to do is just like you don't have to. Well, let me ask you this: why do you think you have to move outside of yourself in a situation that would call for improvisation?
Because it would be incredibly boring if I didn't.
Well, so that's the problem. Is maybe people who are against it or don't like it or are afraid of it. That's the thing. They're like, oh my God, if I have to use my own skill and draw from my real life experience, I'll be boring.
Yeah, because when we played, everybody had this crazy zany thing, and I'm just like,
you don't have to be zany though. Like, you don't. That's the thing. Everybody is going to bring their own flavor, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to blow it out of proportion. So if you, as whoever you are, in this case, it's you specifically, if you recognize in yourself that you're not an over-the-top person who can come up with a larger-than-life character with interesting and esoteric backstories, stick to something and build from that.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I'm a character I can relate with or something I've always wanted to be.
And be judged when it's boring.
You're being judged all day, every day by everyone you come into contact with. So why now?
Yeah, so why would I want it to be more so?
But then again, who are these people judging you? Like, the people involved are invested in the situation.
I can just imagine. I can imagine playing with you years ago when we played, judging everybody's character because it wasn't as good as yours.
Yeah, but that's who I am.
Yeah,
if you're secure in yourself, it shouldn't matter. Like, that's why I get to be so boisterous and so loud. Is if you don't like it, I get to not give a single shit. And that's my right as an American. I have, and you can bring that to any situation. You don't have to reserve not caring for times where there's zero pressure. Get me? Like, in a game, obviously, let's say the goal of a game obviously is to compete, it is to win, and it is to whatever, get pieces, get players, get whatever from point A to point B. When you shift that, especially with Fiasco, let's just keep on that as an allegory. When you have Fiasco, where the point of it isn't to win, it isn't to get your character across the meadow or to the dungeon or through the cave. It's to sit there and have fun. So when you think, what would be a fun character trait? You think, that would be fun to me. All the things that I say aren't for... Okay, I shouldn't say all. Full disclosure, a lot of the stuff I do is not done for shock value. It is done because I personally think it would be funny. If it doesn't work, it is obvious. But I don't let that stop me, because in the moment I found it either interesting or appealing or funny. It doesn't even have to be funny. You could just say something interesting or say something so insanely boring that that's your character. You don't have to. That's the thing. When you go to a party, let's say, you get to be essentially a stranger to people. Like when you worked at a big place and we would go to those parties, if you would float off and I knew I wouldn't have any accountability, I would make up stories. I would make up who I was, why I was here, the things that I did, because number one, no one cares. You're at a party. No one's there to be like, so you're the husband of the friend of the coworker? Good. We're best friends now. No one cares. So that's the perfect time to start. Because back when parties were acceptable, obviously, before the world was infected with the disease, but that'll happen again. It's when you go places and your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your furry, your pansexual play partner, whatever you want to call the person who drags you to the party. Do it. Do it every time. Even if you don't feel like it, go and fuck with people. I mean, not in an evil way or a mischievous way, but like talk about things that maybe you have no earthly knowledge about. They don't know that.
Say bye to Mark.
Bye, Mark. Thanks for showing up. I realized that you were only able to stay for a short 45 minutes, but we appreciated every minute of it. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Is like improv is like that. It should not be, and this is every skill. I feel like improv, that word gets a lot of flack also because everybody associates improv with short form and whatever. Everybody can improvise and can and has. Even if I go and I play who I am at a party when you are there and I have to be like, yeah, this is my wife and I have to stick to the story of my actual life. You can spice it up every now and again. And not only that, even when I'm stuck with the story of reality, you can still tell it in an interesting way. And I still don't care. Even if they know who I am down to the letter. As soon as the clock strikes 12 and our coach turns back into a pumpkin and we get to keep those glass slippers and the party is over, they're going to be like, I met no one interesting. Doesn't matter. Even if they thought you were the most interesting person in the world, great. You just gave them a thrill. You've built something in yourself. And it was zero stakes.
Hey, the guy I met with today told the whole office that you were a badass.
And see, you can get people to lie about you even without ever meeting them. I've never met this man. I've never talked to this man. But through my manipulation of information to Krista that she spread to this other third party, he's completely convinced that I'm things that I'm not, I'm sure.
I don't know. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got 2 black belts and a brown belt, telling the dude. And he was like, oh, man.
Who cares, though?
They do, because they're all pretty much...
Right, but in that context, they get it. And so that's another thing that you can learn by just... Maybe beyond improv, just lower your stakes. You know what I mean? Let's say worst case scenario, something stupid happens. You do something stupid. Look at it this way. Elon Musk is one of the most awkward dudes in the world for the first 15 minutes of every interview and possibly the entire interview. He's worth billions of dollars. It doesn't seem to slow him down any. So just keep at it. If you say I'm bad at it, fine, I get that. Nobody is born with inherent skill. But if you don't want to do it, say I don't want to do it. Say I don't want to learn how to think on my feet. Don't say I'm bad at it. So I washed my hands of it. I put the chalk bag into it, blew it off, and I threw it. I said, enough of that. I threw it on the ground. It's not something that obviously there are people out there who things will come more naturally to. Mm-hmm. Those are the people you hate. But for everybody you hate, they hate someone too. You know what I mean?
That's true.
For everybody you hold on a pedestal, they have on a pedestal above you, and so on and so on. Perfect example of this is Popeye. I know I bring him up a lot, but he's the core. He's the biggest celebrity core of the show, and various tiers sort of spring down from him, and I'm there at the bottom because he's introduced me indirectly to a bunch of different people. We got Mark, we got Mark Wiener, we got Mark Maxey, and we've got a bunch of other integral players that are now in the show. And I don't want to spoil it just in case this falls through, but that XYZ pattern that has led us down this way will net us some interesting guests coming up in the future related to Sloth Fist. I was talking to their singer, Eric, today.
Nice.
So, not to give too much away, but we've got some stuff coming down the pipe. But that's just it. Is here's what you can do. And if you don't want to, or if you are scared to, I should say, if you are scared to improvise by adding to the conversation, right? If you feel I want to join in, but I don't know what to say, that's going to be a witty bon mot that's going to blow all these motherfuckers away. Just ask a question. It'll get people involved in you because they'll have to answer it. And you can read what's going on. And like questions are a lot safer than statements. Like if let's say we're at a party or we're at a dinner or whatever, and if I point out to everybody, hey, I've got something to say, and it's a fucking stupid thing, then I have just called everybody's attention to be like, I did a thing, and now they're going to hold it against me. They resent me. If you have a question, make it, and if you want to make it a zany question or whatever, you can make it pertinent to the situation, make it real. But with a question, you're asking for participation. You're not throwing something out there and be like, there's a joke, react to it.
Yeah.
You can ask for, and 10 times out of 10, the people involved want everybody to succeed. Even when I give people shit for being less than at stuff, it's, depending on the moment, it might just be a character. But I don't ever want you to come away. Like, I hope we always touch base afterwards so that I can be like, you're trying, there's something there. But in the moment, like if I see weakness, I have to bring it up for comedic effect. There's no way around it. I'm like, it's impossible. Like, so, in the classic, completely relatable story, because everybody loves The Simpsons still. But in The Simpsons, where I forget who gets the security system, but they have just lasers all over their house, and kids come to throw rocks at it, and it's like boop, boop, boop. It's like a laser light show, and then it hits dude in the eyes, and he goes, "I can see," and he goes boop, and he goes, "Oh, I'm blind again. Easy come, easy go."
Oh. I
forget why I started telling that story too. God dang it! I gotta start writing things down. It's too late, and I haven't had enough coffee. Why did I start telling that story?
When you show weakness, you have to bring it up for comedic value.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's what I am. I am that house. It's no longer, because the house isn't proactively looking to destroy these stones. It has a mechanism installed in it that is programmed to do it regardless of the desire of the house or the people in it. The person in the house, aka my brain, could be like, no, stop shooting the rocks, but the mechanism is there. I can try to curtail it, and after it happens, I can try to swerve the bus out of the lane that it is in. But it is so ingrained that if I think something is going to be funny, the laser fires. And all I can do is look at the hole that it leaves afterwards and be like, uh-oh. And hope that it wasn't too much of a blast.
Going back to, so Kayla says she's getting back to the actual stick juggling.
It's good hand-eye coordination. It's anything that you do like that. There's something, I can't remember the name of it now, and it's going to bum me out, but maybe it's like a boxing ball. But it's essentially a tennis ball on a big rubber band that you put onto like your snapback cap, and you can punch it.
What?
Yeah, it's for hand-eye coordination for fighters and boxers and stuff. It's the craziest thing, and it's the simplest thing too, because it's just a paddle ball made bigger without the paddle, and you just punch it. But yeah, the stick juggling thing, that'll bring your hand-eye coordination to the next level. I guarantee that. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're involving two hands. What I want to try one day, but I realize I don't have the time, energy, or drive to right now, is the 3-section staff. Mm. It's always been this weird sort of mystical object for those uninitiated. It's 3 32-inch pieces of wood, roughly, with chains in the middle, 3 sections. So like a huge nunchuck plus one. I don't know why. It just looks like something that would be fun to try, and maybe one day I will. But I forget why I started that too. But the moral of the story is, I remember now. The moral of the story is the more moving parts and the more of your body you have to integrate, the faster you get at mastering it. And that stick, especially since it's not attached to anything, you're using gravity in your own, what's the word? Your own nervous system connected to, whatever. There's all kinds of mystical terms for it, like that I learned in Kempo and Tai Chi and stuff, but I don't like using those because I don't like, personally, I don't know where you land on it. And I used to love it, so I can't bash it. It's just personally, I don't like to do that application of mystical energy and such to the martial arts anymore. Because when you're a kid and you are in awe at the dude in front of you with the black belt who says, do you know why when we punch and kick, we deliver a strong and forceful kia? The kia is what we called it. And he makes you raise your hand. You say, oh, because of this, because of that. And they say, no, because it focuses mind, body, and spirit. It drives them all into an energy ball. And when you scream as you punch, realistically, not really. I don't know why we did it. Like, because even then it felt like a waste of energy. Because my answer to him when he's like, why do we yell? Why do we do this? Why do we deliver the kia when we attack? And I was like for intimidation purposes, like you're screaming, but like you're hitting them at the same time. So like they're not going to be intimidated.
I wonder if it was like to focus you as a kid.
It was basically you're trying to get everything. And that's what you do for little kids. You do and pile on as much as you can so they have to focus and can't dick around in the class.
Right.
But when you get older, you look at it from a mechanical point of view. If you are so inclined, if you don't, then you still go with the energy and the blah, 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 and getting connected to the earth and yin and yang and all the balances and shit. As you get older, you realize, okay, it's body mechanics. There are only a certain number of ways the body can move, and there are ways you can apply force through your, various structures, yada, yada, yada. And you realize, okay, it's body mechanics. It's not necessarily being centered or connected to the earth or in harmony with your chi. But if that's part of it to you and you believe in that, I don't want to dog that. It's just, I don't think that it's real.
That may not be real, but it's interesting.
But it is real because if you believe in it, it is. For people who believe in ghosts, ghosts are real. They will see ghosts. They will experience paranormal phenomena. I do not believe, therefore I never will see. If you believe in the healing power of the Lord, of crystals, of energy, of chakras, of whatever, that is your truth, and it works.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, obviously. You can only blow so much smoke up your ass. You cannot change reality. You can say, back in the day I did say, and believed that you could do certain things by mastering your energy, your chi, your life force, your ki. No matter where you go, they always have their special term for it. And, it's cool to believe. Like, I had an Aikido Ninjutsu teacher who told me that when in the right energy, he could do pull-ups on fluorescent lights. Installed ones. In the ceiling, in a drop ceiling. He says that was one of his claims is like through energy work, he could somehow change the laws of physics, lightening his body so that not only the light bulb would hold his body weight, but so would the fixture, the ceiling, everything beyond it. He was literally telling me he was changing the composition of his body to a lighter form of matter. And I was like, oh my God, I believe you.
Oh my God.
And now...
Did he ever do it?
No, obviously he never did, because you never can. You can't change the laws of physics. That's what makes the martial arts great, is they work despite the bullshit being possibly fake.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about things that work, is when they work, there's a real life science and or physics-based reason for it. You don't need... it helps obviously if there's a mythology behind it. But that's what when you start shaking loose these ideas, the things that have weight and substance, they stay in there, but everything else falls through. Every other, because you can say, well, back in the day we didn't know we were doing. These old Chinese monks, these Filipino stick fighters, these Indian dudes with all their clubs and stuff. They didn't have the science, the body mechanics, the biology to explain, hey, when you do this, the energy is transferred via your cords, nerves, muscles to these things, making these movements smooth and nice. They said, well, it's energy that comes from the earth. You absorb it through your feet or the food that you eat, and it moves through you like lightning. That's what they said. But it doesn't matter what they said because the science was always there.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just my soapbox about... And that's what I'm going to shift this into is because when people start extolling supernatural virtues on things, if number one, they're not quantifiable. You can say this will get you in touch with your chi and make claims that you cannot back up scientifically or medically or with literally any evidence, because you say it's this energy, it's this chi. That's what I'm saying is like, if you want to get into that stuff, fine. But be careful, because with science, you have to put your money where your mouth is before people will buy it. With bullshit, you don't have to prove anything, because idiots will buy things that make them feel good. And by idiots, I mean humans. We all do that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is, if you want to get into all the ritual of whatever, if you want to be a stargazer or a stone collector or whatever, anything that has a non-tangible, non-corporeal element, watch your wallet. You know what I'm saying? Like, because Taekwondo class, they'll say, hey, go to the YMCA, Taekwondo. It's a body mechanics-based system. It's $35 for a month at the YMCA. They don't say it's $35 plus for energy readings, we'll do $40. And then if you really want your chakras aligned, we'll do another $80. And you'll feel better. Trust me. Once I lay 8 stones on your stomach and let you sit in a room where I bang a gong once every 9 minutes... and you hand me that check for $250, your aura and your chakras and all of that shit will be clear and you'll feel better.
Your
and
body will thank you.
You will, because that'll be the truth you tell yourself. You say, well, I just gave away $250. I better feel good. And yeah, of course, your brain says, oh, don't want to feel stupid. Dopamine. Booyah.
Booyah.
So watch out, as I'm saying. I got into that shit. I did it. And I got into all of the spiritual side, all of the energetic side, no matter what you want to say, all the stuff that you cannot back up with physical evidence. But for the most part, if you are lucky, you will find a teacher, you'll find a guide, a mentor, whoever, who is doing it for the right reasons and not there to bilk you. Mm-hmm. But if you go to a convention based on something that isn't scientific, they will bilk you. Andy has the stories. He went to all the psychic reading and the crystal healing conventions.
Yeah.
See how much money you can spend and walk out holding something. Like if I go to a store and buy a couple of Eskrima sticks, I know that mechanically they will work. They are physical objects that I can use to smack people or things. If you walk in and get your aura read or cleansed or whatever, your wallet is much lighter and your hands are still empty. Where'd your time and money go?
Cleansing my aura. Leaving all the negativity behind.
Right, but then you're still like a fat, sad, possibly fat and sad. God knows what you are. But if you're going to a festival that claims to solve all your problems by you having to do zero work except for handing over your hard-earned cash for someone to be like, diddly diddly dee, bing, dunzo. Yeah. Because think of it this way. And here's why it's so appealing. Because it takes zero work. They say, well, we can give you... Maybe you'll get a foot rub out of it. Like if you go to a reflexologist, they'll at least rub your feet and then feed you the line of bullshit that all of your ley lines and everything are attached to your feet. But quick tangent. Let's talk about that for just a second. These reflexologists. So the prevailing theory is, if you look at their charts, every part of your body is inextricably tied to points on your hands and feet. Mm-hmm. And by applying various massages, ointments, creams, whatever the case may be, you can get your whole body working by focusing on a single, small, compact, finite space. Now, that sounds great because it sounds to me like if I go and do jack shit except get a foot rub, a guy will blow smoke up my ass, I'll stand up feeling my whole body has gotten a transformation when in reality it was a dude at my feet for 20 minutes. But it's tempting because they'll say, this will relieve back pain, it'll relieve diabetes. Your metabolic syndrome will disappear once this baby hits your heel. And yeah, boy, oh boy, would I love to just take all the responsibility of all the bad choices that I've been making with my fat ass to a guy with a little rivet gun with a wooden knob on the end that he's going to jackhammer into your foot.
Well, even with like babies, like they say if you rub like the pad of their feet, it'll help their stomach or something.
Here's the truth about it, people, is human interaction and touch is beneficial. Duh. No shit, everybody. When you make a connection, a human physical connection to another person, it's going to ease symptoms that maybe you don't even know you carry around with you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just sitting there, everybody knows what I'm talking about, so don't pretend. When you're sitting there watching TV, you don't necessarily feel tense. You don't feel your shoulders tight. You don't feel your stomach tight. You don't feel the tension headache slowly building. But and not talking about the creepy type, but when someone's hands close over your shoulder and start rubbing your shoulders and neck, and it's not the creepy type, remember, you are now immediately aware of everywhere you are holding tension.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not fucking magic, people. Like, manual manipulation of another human body is pleasurable a lot of the time, unless the object is not to be, obviously. But most of the time, unless it's creepy uncle or weird chorus teacher or strange band camp counselor, whatever, you know in your head that when you get that nice boom, solid from a, whatever. Maybe you're even one of these people who do like the drama circle style shoulder rubs and those don't freak you out. No matter where you are, you've been in that situation where someone lays hands on you. It doesn't even matter where. Maybe they grab your arm or your leg or you're sitting next to them. You can immediately feel where all that shit is.
Yeah.
Because your body is a single thing. You can say, well, your liver, blah, blah, blah. It's so easy to look at the human body and pretend like it's a car. Where you can be like,
my liver's
well,
out of alignment.
Yeah, everything in my body is fine except for my liver. Everything else is fine. Bullshit. Like, that's such a goddamn lie. Like, your blood is being carried to all over your body. So it is exchanging with all your organs. But I don't want to get too deep into that shit. What I'm going to say is, it's not magic. When someone touches you in a friendly and welcoming way, your body releases chemicals that do positive things.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to feel better after getting the aforementioned foot rub. Even if it's not that, and they're doing like, they're going to put some crystals on you, just that simple contact with another human being is enough to release endorphins. It releases all sorts of positive signals and chemicals. So even if you were, going there, not expecting a change, like you're one of these skeptical people who still forks out money for bullshit, you'll still prove it to yourself.
I don't know. I think acupuncture works.
It works because you allow it to, but there's also some science there, because with acupuncture, you are introducing trauma to the human body, causing blood flow and repair.
Yeah, and like it's not, and like David was saying, at first I was skeptical about it because I was going for anxiety, but when number one, it didn't hurt. There's like pricks, but whatever, it doesn't. But I could literally feel like,
because you're double dipping.
My blood
I can tell
flowing.
you why. Because you're double dipping. You're going to, number one, you're going to get the therapeutic repercussions of slight trauma to trigger, like, people who cut themselves. We've all heard the scientific reason why. It releases chemicals that they desire. So maybe you're even triple dipping, because when they introduce those pins to you, I've received acupuncture too. When they give you those pins, you get the pain, but then your body has to release something. It's a mechanism. So you're getting that. You're 9 times out of 10 going into a nice, soft, quiet room, maybe some music playing, you're relaxing. The person applying the needles to you has to touch you, so you're making a human connection. Like, it's not rocket science. Even if the needles weren't there and someone just walked into a nice, quiet, dimly lit, maybe candled, pleasantly scented room and just touched you various places while talking to you, you'd be like, hey, I feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all love interacting with each other. Especially, and here's the greatest part about it is, like, people love to do, like, it's obvious why stuff like acupuncture or acupressure or any of that stuff works, like, all the way up to, like, full-blown therapy. Because even if money exchanges hands, you want someone there to maybe just listen to your shit. Or just someone there who's like so low stakes or whatever. But like the fact that someone is there, whether you pay them to or not, and they are making contact with you is valuable. And I think maybe that's why it is so valuable. It's like because you make contact with people all day, every day. Mm-hmm. The only thing keeping you from making friendly contact or being a friend is you. But with a person you pay, an acupuncturist, your massage therapist, your actual clinical, psychological therapist, whatever. We let ourselves interact with that person because we paid them. We say, I'm paying for this. I'm getting the most out of this interaction. Why not bring that mentality to just the regs-ass people you see every day? I mean, obviously, you're not going to get into like the Freudian shit and unpack your childhood with them. But just pretend like you're paying the person you're sitting next to and that you're never going to get that money back, and squeeze that value out of their ass in any way you can. Like, talk to them, make a connection. Like, say, hey, here's $20. I want to know your story, or I'm going to tell you my story, or, use them. Just because you don't pay them doesn't mean you can't use them. Kayla, if you're still here, I use her all the time. She uses me too. It's free. It's a free resource.
Yeah.
And it's all just human connection. Nothing's stopping you. Like, I realize especially with like a therapy session, there are things that you feel comfortable telling a therapist because they are sworn to secrecy. But everybody's got a good friend that you know where the boundaries are. There are ways to, do it for free. That's the thing about everything, is the more you take in the world, the more you will find people offering to sell you life's solutions to all of life's problems. But if you stop and think, they're all there. Like, all of our problems are our own making. And 10 times out of 10, like, I'm trying to improve my speech pattern and my charisma and my storytelling ability. And the more I look into it, the more it's like, yeah, common sense, numbnuts. Slow down. Don't say, don't go, Get yourself into the headspace of where you are. Slow down. Don't push so fast through things. It's obvious. But every video I've watched offers some course, some medication, some this, some that, some other thing. And they'll say, oh, well, we guarantee to make you this in X amount of time. Whether it's a workout routine, whether it's an online class, whatever it is. The information is there. But no one, I shouldn't say no one, a lot of people won't do it unless they're paying for it.
Right. Because it sounds more legit if you have to pay for it.
Not even it's more legit. Like, it removes your choice. Given the choice to do something or do nothing, people will do nothing and justify with an excuse later. But for a course, like all the stuff I've learned from this one resource online, literally every one of their videos ends with, if you like what you saw, please buy this class. It's the same class every time. I've opted not to buy it simply because all this information, once you get like past the shell shock of like, I'm trying to learn something new. Once you calm down and take it all in, it's fairly common sense. Most things are. That's how we as a society get along. Like, if humans can't grapple with the things that we have in our society, where would we be? So that's what I'm saying is, like, I took a little tangent there, but the point is, if you put money on something, you now have no option. You say, well, shit, I've spent $200 on this course. I've got to take it.
Yeah.
Whereas,
get your money back.
Yeah, the information's always there. It's free. The internet exists, books exist, libraries exist. There are a million different ways to get this information free. But it is so much more palatable if it costs us money, because symbolizes, our time, our value. It symbolizes something that we'll never get back.
And it's more convenient because you don't have to search.
Right. That's the second one. It's convenient because someone else has done the legwork of building the pyramid for us. Mm-hmm. So, they say, hey, good news. If you don't want to do the work yourself, we've got a course. We've got a meal plan. We've got an exercise routine. And for some people, that's a viable option. I can't dog people, number one, wanting to make money, but number two, some people just don't have time to craft a new skill regiment.
Yeah.
Let's say you are constantly busy, but you want stronger legs. I would gladly give up $10 a month for someone to give me a meal plan and give me an exercise routine that I could slot in and be done with. Mm-hmm. Since I've got a lot of free time and my time I can use as I want, I'm not going to say it's free, but I can use it as I want. I'll go through the hassle and the rigmarole of learning it all from scratch. Because that, whatever, your time has value, and the more time you spend on the things that give it value, it just pays on itself. Because whatever, take the class, take the course, do whatever. Everybody needs a mentor at some point. Like, book learning will only take you so far. So, find your own path.
Kayla is still here.
Glad you're still with us, Kayla. How long have we been going? Hour and 16. Has this been interesting, Kayla? Like, have you been... All of these things that I've been picking up recently, I'm going through another cycle of like self-help or self-improvement or whatever. And it all seems to be around the same theme. All the books, all the resources, all the things that I'm seeing are like basically keep it simple, stupid, the classic KISS model. Like for self-defense type stuff, all the stuff I'm seeing is like the martial arts are great, the big flashy stuff is cool, but you like cut through the shit and here are the principles you need. And that's it, right? Like everything is like just cut the fat, trim all the excess off there, and you're a lean, mean whatever. You could be a lean, mean accountant. Look at your accounting things, disregard everything you don't need, and get better at the things you do. Whoever you are.
I'm a lean, mean spreadsheet person.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the things that you take for granted, people will be blown away by. Because I, as an medical insurance biller, have I'm not trying to self-aggrandize, but I've got a vast swath of knowledge regarding a very specific topic that, while useful almost nowhere, I don't even know how to finish that sentence. It's a skill that I've honed to such a degree. It is a diamond that no one gives a single shit about. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you get really good at your job, if you're lucky, you can impress the people around you who you can connect with.
Right.
But a lot of the time, you take that diamond skill, and as soon as you leave the office, you put it in your pocket, and no one knows about it.
Well, yeah, like when I told, like with Popeye, again, when we told him what we did, he was like blown away by it because he had no idea about it.
And that's just a shift in, because everybody's like that.
Yeah.
Everybody has something. Everybody I talk to via text, behind the scenes, all the people in regards to this show, they all have something insanely specific and impressive. Mm-hmm. It's just we refuse to acknowledge it in ourselves. We'll look at other people and be like, oh my God, can you believe how good that guy is at remembering what the code is for runny nose? Or whatever the case may be. Can you imagine how good? And you're struck down by the awe of the situation when you have a very similar type thing. It's just, since it's second nature to you, you're like, yawn.
Yeah. Kayla says, it is interesting. It's ideas I've been thinking about for a while.
Right.
Some parallels to Eastern philosophy. Also makes me think of the story of Einstein with the lucky horseshoe hanging in his office. Einstein says he doesn't have to believe in luck for it to exist, but in reality, he shows he does believe, even though he can't scientifically prove it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you can believe in things that don't exist because, wonder of wonders, in an infinite universe, there's infinite possibilities for coincidence. There are, this is a drastic change in topic, but I just want to bring it up really quick. There are people out there who are gods of probability. I did not make up that term. I heard it on a show a long time ago, but there are people, documented people, who are gods of probability. George Washington was a god of probability. In a world where men, women, and children are being cut down by bullets, by disease, by starvation. Like, it is a turbulent time when George Washington is doing all the things George Washington is famous for. Never in his life did he suffer a career-ending wound. Never did he, look into the story of George Washington. You'll see he was a god of probability. He writes in letters about I have a similar story. The delightful sound of red oak hitting bone. He would write to people and be, essentially have a similar story of bullets, musket balls whizzing past his ears and how delightfully he found the sound.
Weird.
Then we have a lesser, Wyatt Earp. Because his thing if you've seen the movie Tombstone, and if you haven't, you better, in the movie where he is walking across that river and dudes across the thing are shooting, unloading on him, and he is not hit once. That's real. I don't know if he was a god of what do I call it?
Probability.
Was it probability? Yeah. Okay. So god of probability. The coincidences were such that George Washington was able to dodge every bullet shot at him. What are the odds? Almost nothing, but they have to happen because we've all been there where you say, oh, well, everything bad has happened to me today. You've always had a day like that. If you're a human being, you say, oh, everything went wrong. There's also the days when everything goes right. And there has to be this 1 in a billion where just some man, woman, boy, girl, child, animal, their life is charmed because every time a coin is flipped, they call it. Dead on. Interesting if true. And it is.
And it is.
But yeah, so yeah, that's the thing. It's so many things to think about and talk about and discuss and to go over. And the more you do, the simpler everything becomes. Because it's like, take any clickbait article, any clickbait video, any clickbait whatever. It's always common sense shit, and it's always obvious, and it's always no duh. Like, even if it's not clickbait, even if the advice comes from a place of like genuine, earnest desire to help humanity in some way, it's always like, no shit, Sherlock. It's like, here, I just watched a video on how to, shut down someone who's being rude to you without being rude back. And it's things that I do every day. And I was like, oh yeah, those are good tactics. And I started writing them down. I thought, well, I do those. It's the NICE technique. So it's an acronym. NICE is like non-verbal cues when someone's making you comfortable. I forget what I is or whatever. Confrontation is C, and then E is exit. So if you go through that strategy, you can nail every interaction. Because if someone is not being polite, you send them nonverbal cues. I do it all the time. I raise my eyebrows. I have a very expressive face. So almost 10 times out of 10, when my face says that's not cool, they get the picture.
And I know, if I remember correctly, folding your arms in front of your chest is one of those other things where it's like,
yeah, there's a million different signals that say, hey, what you're doing is not cool.
Yeah.
I wish I remember what I was. It's basically like, okay, I think was an indirect whatever. You indirectly address it. So like there was an example where like Robert Downey Jr. was getting interviewed by this dude, and he's asking a bunch of questions that were making him uncomfortable. So he sent him a bunch of nonverbal signals, and then sent an indirect signal being like, hey, aren't we talking about this subject instead of what's going on here and making me uncomfortable?
Drug use.
Yeah. And then they went on to the confrontation where it was a flat out calling out of the thing that was going wrong in a fun, palatable, fine, non-aggressive way. And that boundary was not kept. And so the E happened. He exited the interview.
Nice.
And you can do that in any situation yourself. Because nobody wants to lose face. So if they are interested at all in being a human being, they will see the end. They will see and with me they do, because I don't make them subtle. Obviously, my reactions are not subtle, so almost all the time I get to be like, huh? And they go, whoa, sorry. Internally, obviously. Very rarely do I have to step up to an indirect or confrontational type scenario, because nobody's looking for a fight. Nobody's looking for an argument. And if they're being rude, they may not realize it. But if they keep going, that's what every step of elevation is for. Because if you say, hey, don't be rude to me, and they say, hey, fuck that, I'm going to keep doing it. You don't have a plan. Your plan was to tell them to stop. And if they don't, then what?
Yeah.
If you've got a plan, the nice strategy, E is always the perfect ending, because you can exit. If someone is being a dick to you, you say, this has been really unpleasant. I'll see you later. But it's all common sense stuff. It's all stuff that you don't need to be told, but you do now need to be told, because we live in a world where we are taught to be nice and to take people's shit.
Well, that and like it also,
or people are hardwired to take people's shit.
Yeah, and or hearing it from somebody else's perspective, or hearing it in a different way.
Sometimes you just have to hear the obvious, because you can see the answer staring you in the face, but you won't admit it to yourself because it seems too easy. You need someone to be like, well, why don't you just, because how many times have you had a problem and someone walks by with zero investment in it and says, well, why don't you just blank? And you go, yeah, why don't I? It's as easy as that. Like, the answers are always very simple, but if you get embroiled and you raise the stakes yourself and you become, so enamored with the situation or losing face or whatever, you're like, the stress and everything mounts. And you've built a wall, you can't even see the easy answer anymore. You need that jackass friend of yours to walk by with a Mountain Dew and be like, well, why don't you just,
Why don't you just put it back in the pan and heat it?
Why don't you just put it back in the pan and then put that pan back in the oven? The steak will get further cooked. It will no longer be raw. There's always a way out. Always a way out. You know how I know? Because you're not dead. If you're not dead, there's a way out. If you're dead, sorry. There's no plan B. If you do something and you are crushed by a boulder, plan B is out the window. Or, so many death by misadventures, especially in Victorian times. That might be an interesting thing to do one day, but that's the thing. As long as you haven't killed yourself, there's always a plan B. That's the good news, people. Mm-hmm. And the chances of you killing yourself are very slim. It happens so seldomly.
We can't talk about death. I can't.
It's not even like the crazy stuff, like the zany things that people do.
I don't know.
Because
it's weird because I don't mind watching about the true crime stuff because I don't like. I don't know.
True crime is an interesting thing for people because if you're not in it, you go, oh, weird. And everybody in it has a line that they draw. They say, okay, I can hear about crimes of passion, let's say, murders of passion, because in your mind, okay, so here's a funny story, and maybe this will be it for the night because I feel like we're going along and nobody wants to hear me talk forever. But I was watching a true crime story today, and I found it interesting because of the simple fact that it is the only one I've heard in recent memory and the only one I can pull out of a hat that the victim was portrayed as an asshole. Almost all of true crime cases are, they were an angel that somehow slipped down from heaven to do work on earth until they were murdered.
Right.
And this one was like, she was a bitch. She rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Like,
she deserved it.
That's...
I saw it coming.
People like those cases because they're the furthest extreme that you don't get. Nobody likes to paint the victim in a bad light, and so it seldom happens. So that's on one side of the spectrum. You have the victim in this case, where they were an asshole and literally everyone around them, come to find out, was plotting their demise because they were such a dickhead.
Wow.
And those are the crimes that have the least moral implications for you as the viewer. Because you can say, here's a bunch of assholes. This asshole was mean to these assholes, which turned these assholes murderous and killed this asshole. So you say, great, assholes involved. 2 assholes got put behind bars. 1 asshole is wiped out. But then you go to the victimless crimes where it's just random assaults or the younger the victim gets.
Yeah.
So here's my advice if you want to widen the breadth, and it's not for everybody, obviously, because sometimes you're going to hear and see things that are completely beyond the pale, and if you don't feel those, you're no longer a human. But Tim Larkin puts it an interesting way. Think of it not as a victim and an aggressor, like a murderer and a victim. Think of a winner and a loser. Remove the moral implication. Remove even the identity of the people. Just look at the situation. In that situation, who won and who lost? It's gross to think about when you think of all the moral stuff, but don't think about it like that. Because in that situation, when the rubber hit the road, Ted Bundy won every encounter he had.
Mm-hmm. Until he got caught.
But he was caught, not. But that's a different thing. When someone brings, bodily harm or the intention to stop you from being alive, winning is staying alive. And so, murderers, people in jail, people who are really good at violence are good at winning. They are good at turning people into victims, because that's the secondary effect, is when you get good at violence and you use it, you are winning. You are a winner in that category. The category sucks, but that's a skill. That's the thing. It's tools, skills, weapons, they're all inert. They're all blameless and valueless, except when someone picks them up and uses them for good or evil. So use your shit for good and use it for your own good.
I think I watched something that Tim Larkin, I didn't finish that one long one that you had sent me, but I think I got through the part where he was saying that you interview people that are in prison because they succeeded in XYZ that they did because they had the drive or the skill or whatever.
It's so simple. For instance, one of the dudes I like, the British Wing Chun club guy that I follow. And a lot of channels do this, but this is the one I know in particular. They'll point to professional fighters who get their ass kicked. These MMA dudes who go out into the real world and think they're invincible and get either knocked out and get their egos bruised or get legitimately killed by people with zero fighting skill, just the intent to harm. Because when you're in the octagon, you have to follow the rules. You have to not hit them in the nuts. You can't hit them certain places. You can't injure their joints. You can't hit their eyes or face or whatever the rules may be. And so those dudes think they're hot shit because the other dude they're fighting in the ring is playing by the rules too, because he wants to win. He's not trying to kill you.
Right.
That dude in the street, he has no belt to look forward to. He has no purse at the end of the night. He has the intent to hurt you. Mm-hmm. And if your intent is to win, you can fight and try and win and avoid all of the things that he is going to seek out.
Yeah.
Because a person looking to do you harm, they don't have any skill. They want your money. That's what they have. They have the intent to do you harm and take something from you, whether it be your possession or your life. So you can have all the skill in the world. If your intent is not to use it to its fullest, it's not a game. Mm-hmm. That's life, people. But that's the thing. Use everything. Don't just pigeonhole this to self-defense, because if you have a skill, make sure you're using it to its full potential. If you take karate, know what part's the ceremony and what part is applicable to a real-life situation and when to use it. Because you can buy a knife, you can whittle a stick, you can swing that knife around and get really good at holding it and swinging it around. But if you've never been put in a position where now you're stressed and are forced to brandish it at a human, God knows what'll happen.
Hone your skill, but don't go too far that you become a weirdo.
No, don't be a weirdo, but be proficient. And not only that, but like it, because being a weirdo is one thing. Being a weirdo is, we all know. I have to go, you know what a weirdo is. Mm-hmm. But being proficient or a master of a skill, like, people will respect that. A guy who has 900 Bud K swords, no one respects that. A guy who owns one sword, who can wield it like, a master chef cutting a carrot, that's respectable.
Yeah.
And if you can take those skills to a real life situation, because that's the thing, man, don't think that the thing you have will save you, whether that thing be a hatchet or, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Because when you're fighting your bros on the mat with all these things, you could say, well, this could do damage. But you're with your friends. Every time I train with people, my intent isn't to kill them, so I don't know what it feels like to have to want to do that.
Right.
When you're alone and when you have in your calmer moments, you have to make that decision to use your skill to the best of your ability when it's time, whether it's to fight, to fly a plane, or to whatever, cross stitch. You can practice, but when it gets real, make sure that you can use it. Mm-hmm. It's just real life advice from yours truly. Because that's another thing too. Like, everybody, there's an old expression, and when I was a construction worker, like, it was said 900 times an hour, but it was, the contractor or the construction worker has the worst house on the street, which is true, because it sort of conglomerates all of these things we've learned tonight. Because you've got construction worker who is ostensibly skilled at building and or maintaining structures. And it's true. All the dudes I worked with, their houses were garbage. If I got to and trusted them and went over to where they lived, it was always dilapidated. Because I think, number one, you underestimate and undervalue your own skills. Mm-hmm. Number two, we love to make excuses. And number three, if you do a thing for a living, you don't want to bring that thing home with you.
That's true.
But that's the thing. When I was an electrician, I didn't do jack around the house electrical wise, because I was like, I do it all day. I don't want to do it. If someone offered me money, though, couldn't get up in that attic fast enough. Nothing changed, except now the time that I was going to spend doing jack crap, I am now cultivating a skill again for $20. Yeah. Anyway, guys and ladies, thank you so much for showing up to this show, if you can call it a show.
It's a show.
It's a show, live show. We went over some stuff. Who knows what we went over? I don't remember most of it. You got to see my hat. I appreciate that. I guess that's it. Do you want to have a recommendation for people? What? Think about a recommendation. I'm going to give out a disclaimer. The podcast is taking a break for a minute. I'm getting things in order. I'm doing some research. I'm booking guests and building up some stuff that I want to get going. And I am also being told, hypothetically, I will have 2 regular co-hosts again.
Yay.
Fingers crossed. So as that's gearing up, that's why it's going to be a little scanty. I might dip into the backlog of stuff that I haven't released yet or whatever, but we'll see. So moral of the story is you're going to have this show and the Wednesday stuff for a while, probably until May-ish. Then I'm going to start cranking stuff out. I've got some stuff in the works. So Krista, do you want to recommend something to our audience?
If you have any interest in plants and want to just start small with something easy, I can recommend starting with a snake plant or aloe or a ZZ plant. Amazon has a lot of them. Etsy, I've gotten some from Etsy people. And if you ever want any tips or if you need any help, I can do my best to try and help.
Yeah, here's what I'm going to recommend. It's not a product, it's not a thing, it's not a service, it's other people. I'm going to recommend other people. And I do this every time I want to get into something new. I scour my limited pool of human resources to say, hey, are you into XYZ? Do you have any knowledge of XYZ? Because number one, you're going to tap into real world experience of a person that you can get to physically, hopefully. Or you're going to make a connection with somebody even stronger if you don't have one with them already. Because, like I said before, everything is available all the time for free on the internet. But we always overlook the resources closest to us. Because I'm always asking people, I realize I don't have any skills, but if you wanted to pick my brain about something, I'm always open to it. Because when you go to some place and talk to a person, you want them to know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. It is very hard to get that for 100% genuine on the internet. And a friend will hopefully not blow smoke up your ass. Because if I talk to someone and I say, hey, do you know about this? And they say yes, then there are follow-up questions and I can gauge if they are actually involved in that. But that's what I'm recommending. If you've got people around you, pick their brain because they may be sitting on a treasure trove of skills that you can exploit from them. And, maybe they'll in turn get something out of you because we're all here in this together. Mm-hmm. So check with your local people first for skills. Like, personally, now that I've got the information that Jeff works with wood, one day I'm going to pull my head out of my ass and get some projects going.
Yeah.
But I guess that's it. Thank you once again, everybody, for coming and listening and or watching and or putting stuff in the typing square. It's been an hour since we lost Mark and I can feel it.
Yep.
Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching, listening, participating, liking, sharing, subscribing, but don't like or share or subscribe too much because if weirdos get in here, it's all ruined.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time on whatever, probably next Wednesday when we pick up our sticks and we go at it again. I'll catch you guys next time. Say goodbye, Krista.
Bye.
Bye.